Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Psychic Diaries. I'm Michael Lamport, the producer of the TV show Rescue Mediums. And with me, as always, is Jackie Dennison, the host of the paranormal TV show Rescue Mediums. And today on Psychic Diaries, we are sort of going in a different direction than we have before. We have Katy with us, who is correct me if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly, a cryptozoologist.
Yes, you're correct. You got it right.
And it's a very interesting line of work and examination for those of you that don't know what it is. So, Katy, welcome. And can you explain what a cryptozoologist does?
Well, first of all, thank you both very much for having me on the show today. I truly appreciate it for the opportunity. As far as a cryptozoologist is someone that studies unknown animals that are yet to be classified by science, such as Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, Mothman, Jersey Devil. There's so many cryptids throughout the globe that us as cryptozoologists study that scientists don't even want to dabble in. They don't want to hear it. So unfortunately, we do get some ridicule. I know with me as a woman, it's been really difficult because the cryptozoology world is around 99% men. Oh. No offense to the guys out there, but it's very hard. And it's I've really had to push the envelope and showing my scientific protocol that I use in my search for cryptids in general.
So, but basically, you're one of the main ones that you're after. It's called, you named it Champ?
Yes, Champ is basically America's Loch Ness Monster. Lake Champlain is situated between Vermont and New York in the United States. And there has been over 300 reports of unknown aquatic creatures here in Lake Champlain. And wow. That's my main focus of study. I go out on the lake every single day with weather permitting. I have a research vessel. I have a slew of equipment, sonar, underwater cameras, an ROV that goes down about 325 feet in depth. I have an adventurous job, that's for sure, but it's my passion. It's what I absolutely love.
And have you found any evidence of Champ yet?
I sure have. Back in, let's see, 2014, I captured my first video, which was taken in a spot called Button Bay. And there had been a lot of Champ reports in this area in particular. And I think the reason for that, it's very shallow in that bay. It's a good spot where it's up to 65 feet. I mean, compared to the maximum depth of Lake Champlain, which is around 400 feet in depth, it's considered shallow. So there had been a lot of reports there. And I think because it's a great feeding area, there's a lot of ledges, a lot of rocks where fish congregate around these areas. And I happened to get a video of a champ animal popping up to the surface and crawling along like almost like an inchworm or a caterpillar on a table. The strangest thing I'd ever seen. And back in 2012, what had started me to get into this sort of work, I basically started when I was 7. I was watching Unsolved Mysteries and I saw an episode on Champ and the famous Sandra Mancy photo that was snapped in 1977. So when I saw that, I bothered my mom and I said, I want to go to Lake Champlain because there's a dinosaur, so to speak, there. And she looked at me like, what the heck are you watching? So I didn't get up here until 2012. And I had my first sighting on my second day here. And I was just like, you got to be kidding me. And I grew up in the ocean state. I grew up on the ocean. So my dad was a fisherman, a commercial fisherman. And I grew up seeing whales and dolphins and boat wakes and, you know, the natural phenomenon on the water. And what I had seen was around 15 feet in length using a sailboat in the background for scale. And I didn't see the head and neck or anything, but I would say about 90% of Champ sightings, you don't see the head and neck. It's a very rare sighting when you do. So when I saw this animal out in the lake, I was like, what the heck am I seeing? So that was in 2012 when I had my first experience. but I ran to get my camera because I didn't think I'd see anything being there for a couple of days. And when I did, it submerged. But in 2014, I caught it on camera. So that was amazing. It was really amazing. That's one piece. I've got a lot more. I have echolocation recordings, and there's no animal in fresh water in this area, or really any lake around the world, that is known to echolocate. And I record basically whales, dolphins. I work in a lot of marine biology studies now to help with my studies of these animals here in Lake Champlain. And there are some striking similarities between beluga whale and some of the vocalizations and echolocation recordings that I have captured here. So I've gotten a lot of sounds as well. There's quite a few. And then back in 2019, I captured sonar images of a pair. I believe they're a breeding pair. I think there's families of these animals in the lake, like breeding pairs in certain areas. And I captured 2 sonar images of them. First one was on the bottom of the lake at approximately 164 feet. And then the other one was like 3 weeks later, and they were swimming just below the boat. So I was just like, I'm like the chosen one for Champ. It's just the weird, I'm the Champ mom. I'm the Champ protector. So I don't know. Everything's been analyzed by bioacousticians and video analysts and all that. It's real. They're there. And I'm just so proud to be an advocate for the lake, the protection of these animals as well, because I did write a law to protect them, and it was passed by the New York legislature. So that was really great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, the fact that you're not just going out looking because you're curious. You want to protect these whatever you call them. You want to protect them as well.
Absolutely. And I think, with human nature, whenever we're scared of something and the unknown, what's our first reaction? It's either fight or flight. So,
yeah,
I've had stories that have come to me of people seeing something strange and shooting at it. And I'm just like, these are the last of their kind. They're not in every lake around the world. So to me, to prove them, there's people that say, oh, you have to kill one. But I mean, there's eDNA testing now with the water. There's, the new technology really does help in the proving of it. But the problem with the eDNA, we don't have anything to compare them to, because I believe whatever they are, they go back to like prehistoric, Triassic period or whatever. We don't have an ancient, say, reptile or amphibian that we can go compare that DNA with. There might be some little markers in there that say unknown reptile, unknown amphibian, or unknown mammal. But to exactly match it, I think it's going to take a number of years for that technology to bump up to get that sort of result, because I know they're there. It's just proving to the scientific community. That's the tough part. But to me,
they are around the world, right? I mean, you sort of mentioned the Loch Ness. I mean, here, I know where I am in Toronto, Ontario, just north of me in the city of Barrie. There's an unknown creature in Lake Simcoe that's called Kempenfelt Kelly.
Yes, I've heard of it.
Oh, you have?
Yes, I have.
Now, do you think these beings are all related and they're sort of similar? What I mean is, it's not just one unique Champ or one unique Kelly or one unique Loch Ness, that they are the same sort of creature?
I believe so. I mean, I've collected so many reports from different lakes around the world and did a lot of morphological comparisons. In other words, the shape of the head, what they look like, the type of skin that they have. All of these really seem to fit into the same species as Champ. So Ogopogo, Ogopogo's one, Nessie, Champ. I mean, there's just so many. There's even one in Flathead Lake in Montana, Tahoe, Tessie in California, and then over in over in the UK there, you know, you have a few there as well. And it's crazy. I mean, I really truly believe that they're possibly the same species, because some of the sightings have been on land, and that's been the same here too. There's been a lot of on land sightings in marshy areas, in the swamp. And I believe those areas are really great feeding places, and also for them to hide in seclusion. And particularly at night, people have seen eye shine, Tapetum lucidum, it's called. And that's primarily in mostly nocturnal animals anyway, and animals that need that vision deep down in the water to see. So they, the reports here in the marsh, matter of fact, down the street from where I live, the eye shine has been totally prevalent. And there's been a lot of reports of Nessie with the same type of eye shine crossing the road at night. Particularly, I've noticed a pattern where people have seen these animals when they cross the road. It's a foggy night, it's misty out. They love that moisture. It's very typical of a snake going on warm pavement, so to speak, or frogs jumping across the road when you had a little bit of rain, you know. So they show a constant pattern. Whether or not they're the same exact species, I don't know, but it seems like the physical descriptions really do seem to fit, and I really do believe that they are. And if not, they're like a little branch. There might be a little branch off where the tail looks a little different, or some of the head looks a little different. So it's intriguing. It really is. And I mean, across the world, like the Native Americans here call these the horned serpents. And over in you know, you go into Loch Ness, Ireland, there's a lot of reports of the horse eels, they called them, because they were very long and slender, and they had those horn-like protuberances on top of the head too. They just really fit all together. And these people didn't know each other. They didn't know, they didn't speak to each other. And I don't believe it's myth at all. I believe these people were truly seeing these animals, and maybe at that time when these people were seeing them, they were probably more abundant at that time. You know, we've got a lot of pollution going on, and planet's a mess. So I mean, I don't believe it's just myth. I just know that there's no coincidence there.
And do you think that they are all like freshwater lake rather than being in the sea, which has like a salt?
Yeah, I think basically this used to be, Lake Champlain used to be an arm of the sea, and Loch Ness was connected to this. Well, it still is indirectly, and so is Lake Champlain, but we've got lochs in between, and so does Loch Ness. Originally, these animals, I believe, came from the sea and then adapted to fresh water. Yep. Yeah,
and that would be like for sort of preservation, feeding, that sort of thing. That's where they would be able to survive.
Yes, I mean, what's really amazing too is around Lake Champlain, we have over 300,000 acres of marshland.
Wow.
So there's, excuse me, there's a lot. And some of these places you cannot get to. So I have a drone that I've started to fly a little bit. I'm trying not to crash it. So I'm planning on getting like a FLIR for it and go out with a drone at night, because those are when the reports seem to be really active in the marsh system. And just to get like a heat signature or something from the FLIR on the drone, I think would be great, because there's really no other way to get out in these marshes unless you take an airboat, which that might be in the plans to get an airboat eventually. So I have a lot of ideas with my investigative work. I'm always thinking of new things all the time.
But these beings, from what I've read and from what you're saying, they don't seem to be aggressive, do they? They're not sort of in their nature, like they don't want to attack people.
Yeah, unlike the stories of Sasquatch throwing rocks at people, trying to go after people and keep them out of their territory, these animals seem more docile. I'm sure they're more afraid of us than we are of them. There's never really been a report where one of these animals has ever tried to take a chunk out of anyone swimming or anything like that. There was a report of a little girl that was swimming in an area not too far from where I live many years ago, and she was out swimming, and one came up and it was like chasing her and she was freaking out. I don't think it was looking to harm her. I think it was just curious. You know, it could have been a juvenile, or the bubbles that she was giving off. They seem to be attracted to bubbles. So that's another experiment that I'm going to try with the ROV. With animals that echolocate, they put out this beam of sound, and the sound hits, say, fish or like rocks or whatever, and it bounces back. So they don't even have to have eyesight. It's like Braille in humans, pretty much, you know.
Right.
So the picture bounces back to their brain, and they can make out a whole picture without even using their eyesight. So maybe this animal was out there feeding and echolocating, and it hit those, you know, that trail of bubbles and bounced back. It's like, ooh, food, there's small fish out there. I don't know, but for some reason it seems to be where the bubbles attract them for some reason. And also there's been quite a few reports with children, which I love the reports with the kids, because they are just so observant and they're so pure, you know what I mean? They just know. They know, and they remember so much more in detail than adults do, and they're so empathic as well. And it's weird because I don't believe these animals are of supernatural origin, but I do believe that there is a little bit more to just being a biological species. I feel like there's like this protective bubble around them. And a little example is back when I got the sonar images in 2019, my friend Frank, who's a Cherokee native medicine man, he was out because he's part of my research team. So I said to him, Frank, you know, before we go out, maybe we should do a little ceremony with some sage, and you say a chant or whatever. I said, summon the horned serpents. And so he's out there chanting away, and a boat came up. They thought we were sinking because he was standing up in the boat. I'm like, no, we're good. We're good. We had a good laugh with that one. So he did that. And I'll tell you what, it was right after that we got the sonar images. And I'm just like, I mean, I've had weird things happen where my camera will zoom in, zoom out, zoom. I'm like, come on. I'm trying to like take video, and the camera worked completely fine before. Battery will die. There is a paranormal aspect to it. I mean, no doubt in my mind. And I never believed that before. I used to be a paranormal investigator, but I stopped because I'm really empathic, and I had things follow me home, and I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it.
Yeah, that's my job.
I know, exactly. And anytime I watch your show, I used to be like, oh my God, it's just like me. I'm just like, no, anytime I walk into like a building, I can feel things and tell descriptions. I just wish I was good enough to tell the lottery numbers, but I'm not.
Well, you know what, going on from what you were saying about bringing in that shamanic approach and that spiritual approach and the bubble aspect, it's all about energy, isn't it?
Yes.
The energy, and it's very like the dolphins. Are you explaining that, they don't really need to be able to see, because dolphins are so intuitive in a radar way, so they will pick up on what the vibrations in the water are telling them and what it's bouncing off in that, like the sonar, what's happening here. But they're very, very intuitive. And so if we bring in sort of telepathy into that, in the thought patterns that go out, are they receiving that thought with children in particular, who, as you say, are very open to all of this? They believe in fairies, they believe in Santa, they believe in all of these things because their minds are pure. So is that innocence that comes out from a child, is that what they're picking up on? Are they picking up on that? And that's the bubble that it bounces off against. Is that energy bubble,
I really do believe that. And it's just the story about Champ in particular was that the Native Americans said the creator created the Champ animals to protect Lake Champlain. And it just makes total sense with that. And we did that Native American ceremony, and then it was just like, I think that bubble just kind of opened a little bit there. And I said, holy, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. And I said, well, I guess from now on, we're going to have to do this little ceremony every time we go out. So
Well, that's interesting because that would lend its credence to the fact that all over the world there may be many creatures like Champ in many different lakes. I mean, you know, not just the famous ones like Champ or the Loch Ness or whatever.
yeah, exactly. I mean, what I try to do too is like I'm starting to broaden my spectrum of like going, because next year we're actually planning a trip to Loch Ness. I'm not sure exactly when with all the COVID stuff going on,
Yeah.
but I would like to do some research there. I have a hydrophone system, which where you listen to underwater sound. So it's a microphone, and I go down to Florida every other month and I study whales and dolphins, and I do a lot of their recordings. And you're talking about how dolphins, they're so intelligent. And when I'm with dolphins, I don't know what it is. It's just, I've had dreams of dolphins my whole life. And it's crazy how these intertwine in my sort of work too. And with the dolphin work and stuff, they just like know, they know when you love them. Animals just know anyway, but dolphins, for some reason, they're just so intuitive, and it's amazing. And I really enjoy doing that sort of work to get better at doing my skills here on the lake, you know, with the scientific study and whatnot. So it's really interesting. And I mean, there could be, you know, at Loch Ness, there's been a couple of hydrophone recordings that were done. And there was a couple of things that were very similar to what I've gotten here in Lake Champlain. If I could go there and get some recordings and do a comparative analysis between what I hear and there, I think that would tell us more detail if they in fact are the same species or something branched off of the same species. So
what sort of reaction have you had to when other people find out what you do, like, you know, people like the government, everything like that? Because I mean, we have the standard reaction sometimes in the paranormal area where people go, nah, you know, there's no such thing as spirit. And how have people responded to you?
Well, you know, I noticed in the past 8 years, you know, since I've gotten a lot of data, the recordings, the video, the sonar images, I really noticed that I don't get as much ridicule. I think once people are seeing the stuff that I'm getting and they're like, wow, that's really strange. Like that, they don't get up people's minds. And I mean, once in a while I'll get someone that's kind of a poop and they'll act rude to me. And and I'm just like, hey, look, this is my passion. I know what I've seen. I really don't give a damn what you think. And I don't mind skepticism. That's totally fine. As long as the person is not a jerk about it, I'm okay with it. But showing people the data I've collected really has put rude people in their place. They're like, oh, matter of fact, there was a woman I met a couple years ago at an event over in New York that I was at called Champ Day. And she was a volunteer. And I remember she came over to my table and there was myself and my team members. And she's like, well, I've been fishing on the lake my whole life and I had never seen a damn thing. And she was just being a poop about it. And I said, well, you know, there's people who've been on the lake their whole life and never seen anything. I said, it's just being the right place at the right time. And there's certain times that I've figured out that these animals are feeding, and that's when they come to the surface. So that's usually around 6 to 8 o'clock p.m. is a really good time because the fish are feeding on the bugs, they're feeding on the fish. It's a chain reaction. So she's like, yeah, I don't believe it is. She was just being a total jerk about it. And by the time she left, I was showing her some of the stuff at that point that I had gotten. And she goes, oh, well, that's really interesting. And she kind of lightened up a little. But then, okay, so it's like 2-3 years later now. I had an event this August. And she comes up and she's like, hey, I haven't seen you in a long time. I was wondering how you've been. I said, oh, everything's good. And she sits down and I didn't even realize it was her. And then finally I looked over, I'm like, wait a minute. And she says, what? I'm like, are you the one who told me that you didn't believe in it, and it was nonsense and everything else. And she puts her head down like this. Yeah, that was me. And I've changed my tune. And I said, why? Because I saw something fishing last month. And I was so freaking scared though, because she had her fish finder on and something went under the boat. And then she saw like an arch of a neck come up. And she goes, I was like, I'm out there by myself. It was like 5:30 in the morning. The sun was just coming up. And I laughed. I said, see, I told you. Don't doubt me. I'm the type of person, I'm a straight shooter. I don't make up stories. I tell them, if nobody believes me, then that's on them, you know?
It's but do you think that's now because she's more open to it, that she is, she's sending out a different vibration?
Yeah, I believe so, definitely. Yeah. And the thing is, with my conservation effort with these animals and with the lake in general, I think it's really made an impact, and it's almost like they know. It sounds so weird, but just like we talked about with the dolphins, it's almost that they know. It's like there was a person like out looking for Champ at one point, throwing garbage in the lake. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And I was there and I'm like, the hell are you doing? And he, you know, he had never seen anything. Well, I guess years ago he thought he had saw something, but he was always frustrated and mad that I was getting all this data. And I'm like, you know, it's almost like they know, and someone up there knows, you know, and why I'm the chosen, I don't know. I think it's
respect. It's respect. You show them respect, and I think that's what it is. You're not doing this for glory or anything. You're doing this for preservation. You know, for their preservation and for the preservation of the lake and everything that lives in the lake, whether it's that lake or another lake. It's preservation. That's the difference. You have respect.
And there's been so many investigators with Champ and with Nessie, and nobody really ever talked about that aspect. Everybody was out to totally prove it. And even some people over at Loch Ness, there was people that wanted to put dynamite in Loch Ness and prove it that way. And I'm just like, you know, good things come to those who wait and who are patient and have goodness in their heart. And I really, truly believe that, because I've seen so much karma come back to people that have had bad intent. I really have. And it's crazy. It's just like, wow, you know, it takes years to see it, but then you're like, oh my God, you know, so.
And the creature, like you were saying before, probably knows that. I mean, you know, I believe that they've got more than just sonic power. They do sense things. I mean, I've been across Lake Champlain because I was in Burlington for a while, and it's a beautiful lake.
Yes,
it's just stunning. Actually, it's the quickest. The reason I was going across it is because it's the quickest way to get to the eastern Canadian provinces, rather than going through Ontario and Quebec. It's sort of like a shortcut, but it's so beautiful.
It is. It really is. I'm extremely blessed to live here now. And I lived in Rhode Island, which is about 4.5 hours from here. And I just get tired of driving up every 2 to 3 weeks. I'm like, oh my God. And one of my friends, he's like, just move there and live your dream. And I said, well, I'll wait until I'm old and retired and I have money. And I scraped up all I could just to move here. And here I am. And I'm really grateful that I am, because it's given me the opportunity to be out there every day. And, you know, as far as like, I do a lot of fishing as well. I'm kind of like a female Jeremy Wade and across him and Jane Goodall for the protection aspect. So, yeah, I'm lucky.
Just going to, you said about, you know, oh, well, I'll do that when I'm older and I can retire there, you know, and I've got money and things. So I want to just touch on that just for a second, because I know that I've seen on your Facebook page and on your Champ page and also on the website that you are doing a fundraiser, aren't you, to raise money for a documentary that you have filmed.
Yes, I'm doing.
Tell us about that, because if we can help to raise funds, because your story, Katy, needs to be out there. People need to be able to follow your story. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, thank you so much for mentioning that. I'm working on a documentary, and it's entitled Lady of the Lake, The Search for Champ. And it basically goes back to when I started as a child. I had a girl reenact me when I was young to be young again. And it basically shows the steps till now to where I am today with my research, my experiences, the ridicule of doing this sort of work. There's some emotional parts in the documentary as well, but it's all real. And it's, people think, because I'm living my dream, which I'm so thankful for, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows all the time. It's emotionally, there's been times where I've cried myself to sleep, going through harassment, you name it. It's been bad in some parts, but the passion for it has kept me going, of course. And so it's basically, it's all of my whole story of how I got into Champ and the things that I've had to go through, the trials, the tribulations, and the blessings of having these experiences. And I'm hoping to get it finished by April, which is my birthday. I don't even want to think about it. Another year older. And I'm hoping to get it done by then. The funding is really difficult because I mean, I have a slew of equipment for the search. I have a research vessel as well, but it's the film, like the gimbals and the SD cards. And I know how expensive that can be if you want to do it right and you want to make it a professional presentation of a production. It's tough. And it costs a lot of money. And with putting all my money into my research vessel, and I do have horses, so they're expensive too. It's a tough thing. So I'm trying to do everything I can with selling my new book, Water Horse of Lake Champlain.
Yes.
That will be on Amazon shortly. I do have some copies on my website as well. So I'm just trying to like get everything together to fund doing this production. And I'd like to also do some other productions on Bigfoot, on UFO phenomenon, hauntings. It's going to be a fun adventure. It's been an adventure so far. It's been a little rough start, but hopefully there'll be some folks that would like to contribute. I mean, even $1 helps. I mean, I need cards, memory cards. Always need those. I try not to vacuum them up. I've done that a few times.
But I think it's really good because I think if you getting this documentary done and your book or books, it's going to help other people sort of understand or assist them to understand this part of the universe, you know, and they can think that if they are ridiculed, like, for example, at school or something, they can think, nah, well, that's your problem, not mine.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to get this information out there.
I do too. Yeah.
It's crazy because I've been on quite a few television programs and such, sharing my research. And then, I've had people say, oh, well, she's only doing it to become famous and all that. And I'm like, if you only knew how much money I've spent and how much effort and time, and people just don't realize that. And the main reason why I do this, and it's hard. I mean, you just get so much nonsense. It's like, oh, I block it all out. I laugh now. I don't let it get to me, But the most important thing too is when doing television programs is to raise the awareness, and especially for children out there, to say, hey, this is what I would like to do, and for them to have the courage to do it. Because when I was that age, I looked up to Robert Rines that investigated Loch Ness, and Tim Dinsdale and folks like that. And I looked up to them, and that's why I'm here today. I said, I want to do that someday. I never thought in a million years it would happen, but here I am. And I think the courage aspect, and for people to say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to be afraid of ridicule. I'm going to live my dream.
Yeah.
That's where I want to inspire people to open up their mind and to follow their passion, follow their dream.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important, because what you're doing is you're bringing your passion together with research, you know, so from marine biology, and you're bringing scientific things into this. It's so very important. I mean, years ago they said men couldn't walk on the moon, and you know, look at what happened there, and now look at what information we've got as a result of this. So I see this, you know, we're going to the water for this. There's so much that can be learned from what is underneath the ocean or the lakes of this world in every country. I think what you're doing is very important scientific work that, you know, hats off to you. Absolutely, I've got total respect for what you're doing, and I've watched the trailer for that documentary, and it is fascinating. I wanted to watch the end. I was like, I want to watch this, I want to watch it all. What happens next? I want to see this, you know. So it's really well put together. The trailer is very well put together, and I want to see the whole thing, and hopefully we can come back when you've done the whole thing and help you to promote it. And the book, of course, you know, so I'm go as soon as that comes out. I did try and get it on Amazon, but of course it says it's not available yet. So
yeah, I had it up on Amazon. Unfortunately, the ebook version for some reason got messed up, so now I have to send it to my format guy to fix it, because I don't touch, I'm not good at formatting. I have no clue how to format a book. Like, I wrote a book, I did all that, I collected the data, I did everything, but as far as the technicality of, I'm like, here, you take it and you do it. So so it'll be shortly on there, but I can also send you like the PDF, both of you. I can send you the PDF file, and you can look through it. And it's unique because there's data in there that nobody else has, and in the theories in general that I have, nobody else has either. You know, I try to think outside the box and use the sighting reports and the data I've collected to come up with an idea of the possible identity of what these animals are. So it's definitely unique for sure. And there's a little bit in there about my journey as well, and a little bit of what I've gone through. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to that. So in the future, if someone came to you and they wanted to search themselves, would you be willing to take them like on the boat with you? Or, you know, what advice could you give them?
Well, I have a research vessel, an upgrade from the smaller one. The smaller one was 17 feet in lake. That was Kelpie, and this is Kelpie 2, named for the Celtic water horse. This one's about 21 feet. It has a cabin. It's got a bathroom. I was using a bucket before, but that's in the side of the boat and try not to fall backwards, you know. So our new research vessel is really great. I'm going to be doing tours next year. Excellent. So that's going to be a lot of fun, taking people out and showing them how to use the equipment and taking them to various sighting locations. I'm very picky, though, where I show people where to go, because I'm so protective of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I should think so.
You don't know people's intentions sometimes. So it takes a lot for me to really reveal a lot to certain people, because I've had people, they'll ask me, where do I go? And then when I don't tell them specifically, then they start trashing me, and I'm just like, oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't think.
A lot of people would go there if you say, like you say, if you say a specific place. Sadly, our nature for many of us as human beings is you just go there, and like you say, you know, they'll have their lunch on the boat, and then they'll throw the wrapper overboard, or you know, all that sort of stuff. And I think as human beings, we have a lot to learn about treating nature very, very seriously and lovingly.
Yeah, I mean, here at the lake, it's really unfortunate because we have a huge issue with sewage getting into our lake. And the really messed up part is that it's our drinking water. Needless to say, I don't drink the water here. I buy bottled water. I mean, there was millions and millions every year, millions of gallons of sewage is getting into Lake Champlain because they're not updating the infrastructure at the wastewater treatment plants. If we have a really heavy rain, everything overflows, it gets into the lake, and nobody does anything about it. And I tried to, be a voice for that and I have little cleanup events around the lake. I pick up tons of trash. I try to post different videos about the health of the lake. It's very difficult, and what it comes down to is the almighty dollar. It's sad, but people the politicians here do not realize that this is such an important lake, not only because there's an unknown species here, but it's our tourism. Who's going to want to go to a lake that has crap in it?
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing about the sewage getting in the lake, and I've said to myself, I wonder if it's really had an impact on these animals. But if you look at alligators and crocodiles, they were finding alligators in the New York sewers. So I mean, it doesn't affect them. Matter of fact, it might be an additional food source in a way because the fish are feeding on it, and then I mean, killing the fish as well, but for some reason, it just doesn't seem that it's really bothered them. And I think it's because they're a primordial species. They wouldn't have made it here this far today if they were not extremely resilient. And in the lake, we have many species of fish here, bowfin, gar, sturgeon, that have been here 100 million years. So if they're still here, there you go.
And also, I get the feeling from you that that somebody like Champ, for example, because I believe that these creatures who have been here millions of years, they have evolved their senses very different than we humans have. And it makes me wonder whether somebody like Champ has sort of got you, sent a message to you to help her and to help the lake. I mean, I wonder if they are contacting you in a way that either you do know or that you're not aware of.
I just see it really seems that way because of the experiences I've had. And I mean, when I think about what I've seen, and one sighting was not on video, which I would do anything to go back at that point. The first sighting, and then I had a head and neck sighting, and one of my friends was with me at the time that was investigating Champ back when I was a kid. So I got him back into it for a while, and now I'm the only one out here on the lake doing this. And actually in the world, I'm the only woman in the world doing this, which is even stranger, on the lake monster phenomenon. We were out on the lake, and he said, I see two things in the spotting scope. Look, it's two champs. And I said, you're full of it. I nudged him in the arm, and I said, it's two boats. And when I said that, the one in the front, this head and neck picked up, and I was bawling, wholly bawling. And I had a camera at the time, but it wouldn't zoom in that far because it was, I would say in that location, it's probably, 5 miles across. So the camera at the time, I got an awesome camera. Now I got a 60 zoom, which you can see craters on the moon. Figures I haven't seen the head and neck since then. But when I saw that, I cried. So I cried even more too, because I couldn't get it clear on video.
Yeah.
But I cried, and I get emotional talking about it, because if I said to myself, if someone saw this, they would never doubt any stories like of Champ or Nessie, and what else is there in this universe that we don't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was just the weirdest thing, where it was slow motion when it came up and it twisted its neck around like a loop. It was the weirdest freaking thing I've ever seen in my life. And when it happened, the best way I could describe it is like putting like a snake in like a slow motion video where it would around, when they constrict.
Yeah.
And it had something in its mouth. I think it was a fish, because it was fish jumping, at the same time when the two humps came up. And what's really, really strange about it, it was the same spot where I got the sonar pictures. I named them, I call them Puff and Elsie.
Oh.
And the reason why I call the one Puff is because the sonar image, he's on the bottom and he's got these huge nostrils. He looks like Puff the Magic Dragon. It's the weirdest. You can see the horn-like protuberances, which are like rounded. And I wonder if those are what give off the echolocation, like receptors that they have on top.
Right.
I don't know the function of them. I don't know if it indicates sex. Maybe just the males have them, or I don't know. And so I named him Puff. And the other one I named Elsie because I had heard in some old newspaper reports that they also referred to Champ in a female version as Elsie. And I'm like, wow, that's a new one. I really like the name. So one's Puff, one's Elsie. And the even stranger part about this is, since my name's Katy Elizabeth, right? Well, the other name for Elsie comes from Elizabeth. How weird is that? I didn't know. So,
you are one fascinating lady. You really, really are. And we need to revisit this in the future, Michael, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely. I think it would be great if we can check in with you sort of periodically and follow the progress and also get it out there. You know, we can get it out there through Very Paranormal.
I would really appreciate that. I love sharing my passion, and you know, I'm really surprised that there's not more attention with the study, because I mean, I have things that nobody else has, and it's just, it's like I said, it's difficult being a girl in the field. It's like, I hate to say that because like all of my guys are friends, like 90%, not all, but a lot in the field are men, and it's been difficult, you know. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand, because okay, you watch TV and you see 5 shows on Bigfoot. And there's nothing on like a team or a person going out to search for lake creatures. There's nothing there other than Jeremy Wade, who I adore, you know, but you know, he's always like going out and fishing for this type of fish and going out of the Amazon, but they don't really get into the creature aspect as much. They don't identify it as a known species, you know? So I'm really surprised that nothing's ever been put out there like that. And it's mind boggling to me, because it's such an important study, because space, we know more about space than we do our bodies of water.
That is very, very true. We spent billions, and especially America, billions and billions of dollars in studying space. And yet we've got, what is it? 2/3 or more of the world covered in water and oceans and lakes, and we haven't examined it enough.
No.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that's very sad, because you know, it's our world and their world, like the other creatures' world, and you know, it's almost like we should really get to know each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I find it amazing. It's like in your own backyard, you have mysteries. And I mean, with some of the television programs where they go out to look for Bigfoot and all that, it gets to the point where it's just it's so overdone, and it's so invasive. Like they're out there yelling and whooping, and they got bright lights. Nothing's going to come around like that.
No, because Bigfoot probably looks at them and goes, "No, I'm not going there. These people are crazy."
And you know, unfortunately, a lot of those shows too. I mean, I've known camera guys and stuff, and a lot of it has been faked. And it's just like, I've had times where I've done programs and I've heard some ideas. Oh, I said, I'm gonna tell you right now, straight off the bat, if you're going to try to fake something, I want no part of your production.
No. Good. Yeah, that's as it should be. Yeah.
I'm a straight shooter, and I know that these animals are here, and the evidence that I've gathered, you don't need to fake anything, you know? So
No.
any part of that, I don't want a part of it. It's not me, you know.
Good for you. And I'm gonna drink to that, and I'm gonna show you. This is the nearest I could get, Katie, to honouring what you do. Look at that.
I love it. I love flamingos. Well, they get that long neck, see?
It's the long neck, and I thought that's the only thing I can do, the closest I can do to show you my respect.
I love it.
Oh,
Cheers.
cheers. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. And if you're okay, I mean, we'd love to keep following up, because to me, this is absolutely fascinating. And I think it's fascinating to a lot of people in the world too, because they, you know, the curiosity of humans is they want to get to the bottom of stuff and hopefully embrace it like the native cultures do.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'd love to have you guys follow my research, and I'm just, you know, I'm hoping to get Puff and Elsie on the sonar again. We'll see. We've been doing the research out there, but this time of year it gets very windy, so you got to be quite careful because it's such a massive, 120 miles long, and you have to be really cautious. And the weather can get pretty bad out there, so we're doing the best we can to work around the weather. And I'm sure they will show up at some point again, and I just keep that heart open still, and do burn the sage and have Frank chant, and I think we'll be good.
I think so too. You stay safe.
Thank you guys so much for having me on, and we will keep in touch.
Thank you so much, Katie. That's fascinating. Thank you so much.
Thank you.